Let's go. Let's do this. Film producer. That's my craft. Stories through movies. The amazing speakers at crafted events are pure artists and craftspeople, and I might not seem to fit. You might think I'm the guy who pays for movies. Believe me, I don't. My craft is to take a story, build a great team so I can convince a financier that it's worth risking millions and then make the film. I'm there for every shot and edit, from start to finish, supporting my cast, director, and crew. And my job leads to an understandable assumption that I'm wealthy and fancy, especially because I spend time with celebrities shooting my projects. Now, that is fancy, but my current production company is called CounterNarrative. We aim to tell unexpected stories that subvert commonly held beliefs. So tonight, let me explode a myth about the lucrative nature of my craft through my projects. Now, my first film was also Selena Gomez's first lead role in a movie. Very fancy. Parking space at Warner Brothers with my name on it, just steps from George Clooney and Brad Pitt playing basketball on breaks from Ocean's 11. Fancy. But at the time, I was being paid $27,000 a year and working for an abusive boss. Now, Selena is smart, and that's him. Selena is smart and funny and talented. I learned a lot. I'm not complaining. It gave me just enough street cred to leave that boss to work with a great fellow Pennsylvanian who looks good in pointy Spock ears, a great actor, Zachary Quinto, which led to us producing our first film called Margin Call. We spent $3 million with a first-time writer-director. We premiered at Sundance and sold for more than what we spent. It was an unexpected, timely take on the financial crash that exceeded all of our expectations. It had a starry cast, including 2 Oscar winners, one of whom has since been disgraced. We traveled the world to film festivals. We won tons of awards, and the film was Oscar-nominated at the Oscars. I sat behind Meryl Streep and those 2 basketball guys, Pitt and Clooney. Our financier, cast, and studio made money, but I gave up my profits to get the film made, so my producing fee was $11,000 for 3 years of work. No joke. I learned a ton. I'm not complaining. It gave me just enough street cred to get a challenging film made, a dream project called All Is Lost, which only had one actor, Robert Redford. No dialogue, on water, no land in the whole film, real sharks, sailing in several oceans, and the massive water tanks from Titanic. We spent $9 million. We premiered at the Cannes Film Festival to a 9-minute standing ovation, which I will never forget. It won awards, including a Golden Globe. It was Oscar-nominated. I had dinner with Bob Redford on so many nights during the shoot that it was almost too much. Almost. He thinks I'm really good at my job. It was actually a dream. But I made $90,000 for 2.5 years of work. And when the movie was made less than we hoped, our chances of reaching financial rewards vanished, despite the 94% fresh reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I'm not complaining. I learned a ton. It gave me just enough street cred to make a bigger budget movie, starring Oscar Isaac, pre-Star Wars, and the great Jessica Chastain for nearly $20 million. It subverted the gangster genre, it had unique car chases, and we even shut down the Queensboro Bridge. Now, the movie was on dozens of top 10 lists. It was compared to Sidney Lumet and Scorsese. We won Best Picture from the National Board of Review. People who saw it loved it. But it tanked in theaters, which likely led to no Oscar nominations, which sealed its financial fate despite awards and 89% fresh reviews. Now, they say the hardest thing about making movies is making good movies. It sounds obnoxious, but in my experience, the hardest thing is staying out of debt while making good movies, and to get people to show up to an actual movie theater unless you're Marvel. If you grew up in York with school teacher parents like I did, you don't have a trust fund to use while making well-reviewed, expensive art, so you look to TV. Maybe that'll pay the bills in between movies. And maybe you appear on and produce a documentary series, reality show, called The Chair, because Ben Affleck said no. And on the show, 2 filmmakers were able to make a film. A guy with 1 billion views on YouTube made a racist, homophobic, misogynist, unprofessional movie that I was forced to take my name off of, and the other director made a beautiful film, but she literally had a mental breakdown from being filmed every day. The series was incredibly compelling. Because of all that, it won awards and has the rare 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. But nobody watched. The deal we made favored profits in future seasons that never happened, so my team of 3 was paid about $50,000 for 18 months of work. It's beginning to be a pattern. Am I a good deal maker for everybody but me, or is it the noble poverty of challenging material, or both? My director and I were hired for a movie about the biggest environmental disaster in history. We spent over a year prepping it with Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists, and then one day, we were fired. We didn't make a movie during that whole time. The opportunity cost was heartbreaking, and I was never paid for that work except $50,000 in hush money to not tell you all the details. I'm not complaining. I still learned a ton. I still had enough street cred left. My current movie cast is incredible, and at one point had various combinations of Tom Hanks, Will Smith, Johnny Depp, Channing Tatum, Mark Wahlberg, and Black Panther. Amazing script, intense action movie with something on its mind, but it fell apart 3 times. I dragged my wife and 2 young boys to far-flung locations to not make a movie, and when the movie falls apart, everybody gets paid for the time they spent working, except the producers. Now, we ultimately shot the film, and we are editing it now. I learned a ton. I'm not complaining. Gave me the street cred to make, I'm not really sure what at the moment. I'd like to think I can tell any story as long as it's smart and entertaining, but each time, you start from zero, you create the thing, you beg for money, you make it, and then you try to find your audience, and you just never know. So I decided at some point to fight to tell stories that move me and that are inherently challenging to pull off. Bo Willimon, who created the show House of Cards, is a friend, and he once told me, I'm only going to get to tell a handful of stories in my life, and I want to make sure that I truly believe in the ones I choose to give my time to, and I think of that often. Now, my actress wife admits that she's jealous that I make projects with creative integrity, while she's well paid to star in Hallmark movies or almost be the mom on How I Met Your Mother. I've told her many times I would sell out in a second to make the poop emoji movie, but I'm just not good at that. Turns out, I'm way better at making movies that reviewers love if I could just get some eyeballs on them. That next movie I mentioned has a big budget and will be on Netflix with over 100 million pairs of eyeballs, and this time Ben Affleck didn't say no. Now, my craft isn't one where I can buy a canvas and paint and make something alone. It involves millions of dollars and thousands of craftspeople, carpenters, countermen, actors, costumers, electricians, and stunt people, and I don't take that responsibility lightly. Asking people to give their time to a story infuses me with the responsibility to use their contributions smartly, to make sure they're proud, to use stories to nudge the world a little bit or break your heart. Now, my fancy-on-the-surface career has not paid out for me yet, despite famous pals. Maybe it never will. I don't think making art and paying the bills should be mutually exclusive, but as someone who chooses craft over riches, I'm not as focused on the numbers as it might seem. I have stories that deserve to be told that I'm hoping to find an audience for, not the ones you might expect. Check out one that you wouldn't usually try when you next log into your Netflix account. I'll do my best to deliver.